Episode number 2 of the Chief Mate and Cadet Angeline aboard MV Asian Express. The breeze is soothing, but Angeline can still feel the warmth of the afternoon sun, igniting a feeling of remorse of passing on the bridge wing instead of the stairs inside, where, although the coldness of the air circulating inside makes her feel relaxed, she feels like living inside a box. But seeing the chief filled her mixed feelings with happiness, because she knows she will learn a lot of things this afternoon. "Good afternoon, sirs," Angeline excitedly pronounced. The second mate, preparing to leave the bridge, winked with his eyebrows as high as it could be to acknowledge her greetings. The chief seemed serious, taking his time to glance at the ectis, the radars, and the AIS, then peeped through the standard compass. But he did not answer. It made Angeline feel guilty, asking herself, "Am I late?" "Coffee, sir?" she asked. And he answered, "That's what I need, thank you." 1 spoon of coffee, 4 teaspoons of creamer, and 3 tablets of stevia, he added quickly. 1, 4, and 3? Is he signaling something? Then she thought, what were I thinking? Laughing at herself for overanalyzing. Angeline suddenly became silent while making coffee, but the chief suddenly asked about what ocean currents she knows, breaking the ice between them. Angeline remembers only some of the currents, so he told her to be familiar with them by reading the Ocean Passages for the World, pointing at the bookshelves carrying the bridge library. You need to read Mariner's Handbook, Ocean Passages for the World, Bridge Procedures Guide, and the Training Manual as a start, he said. He also said that when she has time, be sure to read the Safety Management Manual and Procedures, so that she will be familiar with the company's safety management system, and she would become a better officer someday. As she jots down notes, Angeline tries to recall the rules for naming the difference of latitude and the difference of longitude. "What do you remember?" he asked. Angeline says she remembered that different names shall be added. The chief told her to use the calculator method, and the rules to remember is very easy. That is, north and east shall be positive, and south and west shall be negative. If the result yields positive, it means the difference of latitude or longitude is either northward or eastward, and if it is a negative result, it means the difference of latitude or longitude is either southward or westward. He also said that there is only one formula, and that is always minus, as denoted by the word difference. It must be latitude of arrival minus latitude of departure, and longitude of arrival minus longitude of departure. "Try it," he said. For example, latitude 2 is 20 degrees north, minus latitude 1 of 40 degrees north will give you a negative 20, and the difference in latitude will be 20 degrees south or southward. If longitude 2 is 100 degrees east, that is positive 100, there's no need to write positive in the calculator. 100 minus longitude 1 of 140 degrees east will give you negative 40, and the difference in longitude will be 40 degrees west. Angeline was amazed at how simple the formula is. The calculator method is also applicable to some other formulas, according to the chief mate. "I did not learn this from school," she said. The chief says, "Because I was not your teacher in the academe." He told her he learned this technique during programming in Excel, wherein he also programmed rumb line sailing, and you need to understand trigonometric formula derivation. Angeline thought that her mathematics is far inferior to this man, but she is determined to learn all of what he will share with her. "Don't forget to write the GPS position in the GPS logbook," the chief ordered. The GPS position is written on a record book every hour, although it is always stored in the ectis. The purpose is to have immediate position whenever it is needed for reporting, or when asked by the captain or the engineers. It is a hassle to check it in the ectis. "Yes, sir," she agreed, as she writes the coordinates of the 1700 H position. "Do you remember the phrase, 'Can dead man vote twice?'" he asked. Angeline nodded. He explained that you can also use the calculator method in this simple solution of the compass error, so that naming the result is easy. "Can dead man vote twice" is actually a mnemonic for compass, deviation, magnetic, variation, and true direction or bearing. Your reference point here in using the calculator method is true direction. For example, True minus compass will give you the compass error where the answer when positive is named east and when negative is west, he explained. He also explained that same goes with true minus magnetic equals variation, using the same method in naming. Also, magnetic minus compass equals deviation. It can also be applied with true minus gyro equals gyro error. But the chief delineated that the compass error is the algebraic sum of the deviation and the variation that transforms into the formula. Compass error equals deviation plus variation. Using the calculator method, if the name or suffix is east, use positive, and if it is west, then use negative. The compass error when positive is named east, and when negative, it is named west. Angeline thought that this is very useful technique because it is always in use on board. The compass error must be calculated in every watch whenever possible. She wonders if the chief mate learned this from school or during his programming in Excel, but she is too shy to ask. At 17:30 hours, the third officer came to the bridge to relieve chief mate for dinner, and without telling a word, he signaled that she goes with him to the officers' mess hall. Angeline respectfully asked the permission of the third mate, and he nodded in agreement. The captain and the chief engineer have just finished their dinner, and the two of them going out of the officers' mess hall. Angeline greeted them respectfully, but the chief mate jokingly told the chief engineer, "You're on diet again," and the three of them laughed. Angeline thinks she'd feel too shy to eat well if she dined with the chief every day. "Don't be shy," he says, seeming to read her mind. "Wow, CPA!" he shouted advertently, to be heard by the chief cook. The chief cook greeted him with smiles reaching his ears. "I made kimchi, chief. You want some?" he asked. "Yes, please," he answered. "What is CPA, sir?" she asked cluelessly. She knows about the closest point of approach CPA in radar navigation. The chief laughed and said, "Chicken pork adobo." Angeline giggles, relieved by the lightheartedness. "Try the kimchi," he said. She replies, "Thank you, sir, but I don't like that food, and it's hot." After dinner, he went to the recreation room to see the crews, and they greeted him happily. They were watching a movie and invited her to watch with them, but since she is with the chief until the end of his watch, she can't yet. The chief went back right away to the bridge so that the third mate could rest a couple of hours before his watch at 2000 hours. Angeline followed, but asked permission to go to her cabin for a few minutes. Angeline went back to the bridge and saw the chief plotting a wind triangle on the chart to measure the true wind since the instrument only shows the relative wind direction and speed. She carefully watched and told him that she learned it in school, so she'll do that instead of him later before the end of the watch. "Do it now as a practice," he ordered. Angeline checks the wind indicator, and she noted the relative wind is 45 degrees on the starboard side, and wind speed indicated is 16 knots. The ship is on course 000 degrees, and a speed of 13 knots. She plotted the own ship from the center of the compass rose. Then the relative wind also from the center. Then she drew a line connecting the tips of own ship and the relative wind and transfers it to the center to measure the true wind direction. The true wind speed is measured from the tips of the own ship and the relative wind lines. She plotted the same way as the chief mate's plot, but after finishing her work, the chief said, "The result is correct, but the plot is wrong." Angeline was puzzled by the chief mate's remarks. He explained that, although he is doing the same plotting, it is not the correct one, but a more convenient way to measure. However, some maritime schools are teaching it because the teacher does not know the correct plotting. The correct way to plot the vector triangle is to label the own ship with E to R. Then plot the relative wind from R, because the wind is already acting on the ship from the starboard bow, and label it E to W. Connect the W to the center, and that is E to W, but because wind direction is measured from where it is coming from, so take the true wind direction from the reciprocal of E to WW, that is W to E. They did not tell you this in school, right? "Yes, sir," Angeline responded with a hint of embarrassment. "Practice the correct one for our logbook recording, and so that you'll be familiarized with it for your licensure exam." he ordered. The sun is now sitting on the horizon, and the chief felt it was a missed opportunity for taking the sun's azimuth. Next time, let's compute the amplitude of the sun for compass error calculation, standard and gyro compasses, he uttered. We can still see the sun, sir, she complained. Remember, to calculate amplitude, the sun must be half diameter above the horizon, so that it is more accurate and there is no need to apply corrections from the Norie's tables, he explained. Angeline nodded in agreement, but her face shows it is the first time she heard about it. It was never mentioned by her instructor in the academe. Suddenly, the chief began to clap his hands loudly. It seems he is calling someone, but he is not looking on the main deck, but at sea. To Angeline's amazement, dolphins are jumping out of the water, and they did that more when the chief claps his hands applauding them. He seems so serious, but there is a hint of immaturity on his actions with the dolphins. The sun is now behind the horizon, and the chief mate's watch was almost over. It is time for Angeline to obtain the true wind direction and take observations needed in the logbook. May I borrow the mariner's handbook, sir? She requested. No, he said teasingly. But he told her right away, I have an e-copy in PDF. I'll send it through Messenger. That makes Angeline happy and said, I need to add you on Facebook, sir. The chief nodded, then completed his checklists for his watch. The third mate arrived and greeted them with a smile. After the turnover, time to rest. I'll go down. Angeline, you can stay more if you want. He spoke. Maybe next time, sir. I'm a bit tired today, she replied. Angeline reflects on the day. She was so happy with the lessons she had today. The 3.5 hours stay on the bridge seems a week or two in the academe, but what makes her happiest is that she and the chief mate are now friends on Facebook. As Angeline walked back to her cabin, she couldn't help but smile. The lessons she had learned in just one afternoon were more valuable than weeks in the classroom. From plotting wind triangles to learning the compass error formula, her respect for the chief mate deepened. Friends on Facebook, she thought with a laugh, realizing how unexpected that small connection was. But more than a friendship, it felt like a mentorship that would shape her future. There was still so much to learn, and Angeline was eager for the next lesson. With the dusk finally transforming to a dark night and the gentle rocking of the ship, she knew tomorrow would bring even more knowledge and maybe a few more surprises.